Perhaps the single biggest advantage to being a PC gamer is having the ability to tinker with your software and adjust everything to exactly your precise preferences. The open system of PC gaming compared to consoles allows players to modify their games basically however they want, and the thriving modding scene ensures that any moderately popular new release will have a ton of nifty mods created within days of its release. There are typical mods which allow players to refine minor aspects of the game, and then there are mods so creative, inspired, and outright genius that the developers probably should have implemented them themselves. And so here are the mods that took gamers by storm over the last 12 months, becoming viral sensations for just how impressively they transformed these beloved games. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are the 10 best gaming mods of 2022. Number 10. Seamless Co-op Mod, Elden Ring. Elden Ring is, let's face it, by popularity, pretty much 2022's Game of the Year for everyone, and due to that popularity, it's also one of the year's most modded games. But behind the usual cosmetic silliness, it boasts one of the most impressively game-changing mods of 2022, the Seamless Co-op mod. While Elden Ring does feature a co-op multiplayer component, it's limited to summoning a player into your instance, and the co-op play will end when either the boss in the area is defeated or the summoned player dies. But this particular mod, released in May by Luke Yui, theoretically lets players play the game in co-op from start to finish. The restrictions in the base release are all gone, and your progress throughout the game is even shared. Given that the difficulty of From Software games and lack of persistent co-op has turned many off from even trying them, this mod is nothing short of a miracle, letting groups of friends gank the whole game together. Considering how easily such extensive co-op integration could have turned Elden Ring into an unbalanced mess, it's truly awe-inspiring how well it works, while showing From Software the sure potential of full-fat co-op for future titles. Number 9. Daredevil mod, Sifu. With a game as badass and beloved as Sifu, it should come as no surprise that such an ass-kicking protagonist would get reskinned by modders pretty quickly. And indeed, within just 2 weeks of its release, modder Nosborn GG put together a mod recasting our hero as Charlie Cox's version of Daredevil from the Netflix series. The mod allows players to don the rudimentary black suit and blindfold from the show's first season, which fits so perfectly with Sifu's own heightened martial arts aesthetic. It looks especially swish during the game's early hallway brawl sequence, almost as if the developers have thought of it themselves. There have certainly been other neat mods for the game, such as the one in which the player plays as Neo from The Matrix while every enemy is reskinned as Agent Smith, but tonally and stylistically, Daredevil just feels the most right. Granted, it is tough to reconcile precisely why Matt Murdock would age every time he dies. Number 8. Third-person camera mod, Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance. If you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 2 in quite some time, it's incredibly easy to forget that the game actually has a fixed camera. And it wasn't until the release of Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence that Hideo Kojima finally gave the series a fully movable third-person camera. But in November, modder Oxator released a third-person mod of Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance, the expanded edition of the game and only version available on PC, to commemorate the 20th anniversary of its original release. And oh boy, what an incredible creation it is. The fully functional 3D camera feels like playing the game anew for the first time, and it's the result of a Herculean effort by Oxtoxor, who wrote thousands of lines of new code for the mod. In his own words with PC Gamer, he had to, quote, reverse engineer and rewrite many things in the game engine. The only annoyance here is getting a copy of the game, legally anyway, as it's been delisted from many storefronts due to Konami's fully nebulous licensing issues. Number 7. Natural Vision Evolved mod, Grand Theft Auto 5. There have been many visual mods released for Grand Theft Auto 5 since its 2015 PC release, though the sure-crowned king of the bunch is the new 3.0 Evolved release of the ongoing Natural Vision mod. Created by prolific GTA modder Raised, this particular mod gives the entire game an eye-watering visual overhaul. From lending pavements and vegetation a gorgeous new lick of paint to adding volumetric clouds and new lighting to the world, all in an effort to make Los Santos more closely resemble real Southern California. Even though it's currently only in early access and requires subscribing to Raised's Patreon to download, the mod's inspired artistic extensions of the original aesthetic and jaw-dropping use of ray tracing only lend further atmosphere and pizzazz to a game already overflowing with both. And given that the project is still very much in progress, who can even imagine where this one's going to end up in the future? Number 6. Peter Parker's original face mod, Spider-Man. When Spider-Man Remastered was first released for the PS5 back in late 2020, many fans expressed frustration at Insomniac's decision to change Peter Parker's face, replacing original model John Bubniak with Ben Jordan. To many, the decision to have Peter look younger felt like a cynical commercial calculation to make the video game Peter more closely resemble Tom Holland from the MCU Spider-Man films. The official reason given was that they wanted Peter Parker's face to more closely resemble that of Yuri Lowenthal, his voice actor. But does that really wash? Either way, when Spider-Man was finally released for PC back in August, complete with the controversial face swap, within a matter of weeks a mod was released by Diagron CDM, which reverted Peter's countenance back to John Bubniak. Given that Bubniak's model files were effectively locked inside the 2018 PS4 version of the game, the process of restoring Peter's face was a little more complicated than it probably should have been. There are certainly far more wild Spider-Man mods out there, but given how expressive the original face for Peter was, this is probably our favorite. Number 5. Skip the Pinball minigame mod, Sonic Frontiers. Surely the single most annoying part of Sonic Frontiers is the pinball minigame on Chaos Island, a mandatory aside where the player has to rack up a ridiculous 5 million points in order to continue with the main story. Many players cried foul that this was an unfair ask and should have remained side content all along. And after a month of fans asking Sega to either nerf the minigame's score requirement to the extent that some struggling players resorted to awkwardly glitching their way past it, an enterprising modder took matters into their own hands. Locomotiveness recently dropped their Loco's Pinball Experience mod, which allows players to skip the minigame entirely, while also including a save file that lets them revisit the minigame in the event they ever want to. Now that's the kind of consideration a lot of players wish they had when the game originally came out, given the amount of hours or days they had to put into doing it the hard way. Number 4. Shadow of Skyrim mod, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor introduced the much-loved Nemesis system, whereby any Uruk who survives an encounter with the player, or especially defeats them, will be promoted up the ranks and remember you the next time you cross paths. Many expected to see the Nemesis system in a bunch of action games after the fact, but of course that would never happen because Warner Bros. Filed a patent for it. But trust modders to come to the rescue once again, as the incredible Shadow of Skyrim mod adds the Nemesis system into a game nobody's quite had enough of yet, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. The mod released by Cyclonics this past summer gives any enemy who kills you a unique name and buff, debuffs the player upon defeat, lets the Nemesis character take your gear, and generates a revenge quest where players can attempt to get their gear back and remove the debuff. While it's of course not quite as complicated as Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system, it still is a cute new mechanic in a game that you think we'd be sick of by now, but hey, we just keep playing it. Number 3. Custom Music Mod, Metal Hellsinger. Metal Hellsinger is a delirious fusion of rhythm game and first-person shooter, and from the moment it was first unveiled, interested players simply asked, "Custom songs when?" And though this seemingly simple feature wasn't available for launch, developers The Outsiders ended up releasing it themselves to fans, allowing players to theoretically add any song they wanted to the game. The Metal Hellsinger modding package from FMOD Studio basically lets you grab any song from your hard drive and put it in the game. It requires a little tinkering and only works with songs that maintain the same beats per minute throughout, but for the most part, the results are very impressive. In one hilarious example posted by the devs themselves, jazz music could be inserted into the game and still result in a genuinely thrilling experience. And honestly, does it get any better than blasting demons back to hell listening to Rammstein's Du Hast? No, I don't think it does. Number 2, Garfield mod, Stray. Stray was one of 2022's big viral video game sensations, and so it was just a matter of time before modders reskinned the unnamed feline protagonist. When one mod hilariously allowed you to play through the game as a French bulldog instead, and others let you play as Spyro the Dragon and even the Minecraft pig, the most inspired of the bunch was surely the Garfield mod. Within 4 days of the game's release in July of 2022, Crobino uploaded a mod allowing everyone to play through the game as their favorite lasagna-slurping, plump, orange tabby Persian cat. The mod perfectly translates Garfield's cynical dour demeanor into video game form. Also, the hilarity of dragging his unenthusiastic face around a cyberpunk dystopia speaks for itself. If certainly far from the most complex mod on this list, it's perhaps the most amusingly inspired, changing the nature of the game in a silly but awesome way that still makes total sense. Number 1, VR mod, Half-Life 2. But the very best mod of 2022 was an astounding technical achievement that was pretty much a decade in the making. Half-Life 2's VR mod is exactly what it says on the tin, the classic 2004 FPS retrofitted with full virtual reality support. After 10 years of on-off tinkering, the Source VR mod team released the mod to the world for free this past September. And while most VR mods understandably feel a little rough around the edges, this doesn't feel far off something you'd expect Valve to produce themselves. It's clear that a wealth of under-the-hood refinements have been carefully implemented to adjust the game to a new method of play. And most importantly, playing Half-Life 2 this way is both extremely transformative and incredibly fun. Handling Gordon Freeman's trusty crowbar feels genuinely tactile, and it goes without saying that the iconic Ravenholm level is a sweaty-palmed nightmare with VR's added layer of immersion. And better yet, the team does intend to repackage Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and 2 for VR in the future. That's the end of our list, but do let me know down in that comment section if you've got any ideas for amazing gaming mods of 2022 that we might have missed out on. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you like, you can come say hi to me on my Twitter account where I'm @JessMcDonnell, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more gaming goodness.